Aunt Clara has gone home to try and see if she can find a book of antidotes. We'll just have to put all our confidence in her.
In the mid-1960s, a wave of fantasy TV shows introduced us to spooky families, wish-granting genies, and nose-twitching witches. Bewitched was one of those iconic shows where viewers tuned in each week to watch a grumpy husband, Darrin, navigate life with his magical wife, Samantha. While Darrin often struggled to accept her witchy abilities, especially when her eccentric family dropped by to cause trouble, the show remained full of love and charm. Each episode offered a whimsical escape, and here are some fantastically fun facts about Bewitched that you won't want to miss. The cast. Elizabeth Montgomery brought to life the role of Samantha, a witch who marries mortal Darrin Stevens, originally portrayed by Dick York and later replaced by Dick Sargent. While Samantha does her best to fit the mold of a typical suburban housewife, her magical family isn't so supportive of her mortal marriage. In particular, her mother, Endora, played by Agnes Moorehead, disapproves and often meddles in her life. Decades later, Bewitched continues to captivate new generations of fans. In 1977, the show inspired a spin-off called Tabitha, starring Lisa Hartman as the adult daughter of Samantha and Darrin. Curious if the cast were friends off-screen? Or why Darrin was recast? And what about the celebrity cameos you might have missed? Although it's been off the air for over 50 years, Bewitched still draws viewers in for reruns, especially as Halloween approaches. So let's dive into some fun behind-the-scenes stories and facts about the beloved series. Fact 1. The 1960s saw a proliferation of fantasy TV shows filled with magical creatures and eccentric families. Among the most popular were Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, The Addams Family, and The Munsters. All of these shows premiered between 1964 and 1965, but their longevity varied greatly. While The Addams Family and The Munsters fizzled out after just 2 seasons, I Dream of Jeannie lasted until 1970. Despite the challenges, including the sudden change of Darrin's cast midway through the series, Bewitched outlasted them all, captivating audiences until 1972. The Stevens family remained a staple of primetime television for 8 years, establishing itself as the longest-running show of its kind in this magical era of television. It wasn't just the concept that captured hearts. It was the quirky characters, the charming humor, and the quirky take on suburban life with a supernatural twist. Fact 2. Dick York, who originally played Darrin Stevens, had a career-altering accident 5 years before he was cast in Bewitched. While filming They Came to Cordura in 1959, he suffered a serious back injury that plagued him for the rest of his life. Determined to continue acting, York hid the severity of his pain for as long as possible during the first 5 seasons of Bewitched. But as his condition worsened, the role became increasingly difficult to manage. His reliance on painkillers exacerbated the problem and eventually forced him to leave the show. His departure was not due to creative differences or personal wishes. York genuinely wanted to stay in the role, but was physically unable to continue. His portrayal of Darrin, with his bewilderment and exasperation at his witchy wife's antics, had won over the audience. The switch to Dick Sargent in the 6th series marked a significant change, and York's absence left a hole that many fans could never quite fill. Fact 3. Although Bewitched was a modern, light-hearted comedy, its creators drew inspiration from ancient sources when naming key characters. The names of Samantha and her mother, Endora, come from a story in the Bible's first book of Samuel. In this story, King Saul consults a witch from the land of Endor in a desperate attempt to summon the late prophet Samuel. From this ancient story, Endor became Endora, and Samuel became Samantha. The connection gives an extra layer of depth to the show's characters, blending ancient mysticism with mid-20th century suburban life. While viewers may not have immediately picked up on the biblical reference, it's a clever nod to one of history's most famous witches. The interplay between Samantha and Endora adds a dramatic tension to the show, with Endora's disdain for mortal life echoing the fear and awe often associated with witches in ancient tales. Fact 4. On screen, Bewitched's characters often appeared glamorous and well-dressed, but behind the scenes, the show's wardrobe budget was not as large as one might expect. Many of the female cast members contributed to the show's wardrobe by bringing in their own clothes to wear during filming. Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha, often pulled outfits from her personal wardrobe. It wasn't just a practical solution. Montgomery had a great sense of style, and her wardrobe choices added to the appeal of her character. This creative and resourceful approach also gave the show a more authentic feel, with characters wearing real clothes rather than over-the-top costumes. It allowed the magical elements of the show to stand out even more against the backdrop of seemingly normal suburban life. By dressing Samantha in practical yet stylish clothes, Montgomery's personal touch further blurred the line between her real self and her magical character. Fact 5. A fascinating visual detail in Bewitched was the frequent use of the color green, which appeared subtly in almost every episode after the show switched to color. Whether it was the green carpet in the Stevens home or smaller emerald accents scattered throughout the set, the color became a recurring element. Elizabeth Montgomery herself often wore green in her costumes to accentuate her striking green eyes. But beyond its aesthetic appeal, the color also has significant significance in folklore, particularly in relation to witches. From the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz to the green face paint commonly seen in Halloween costumes, green has long been associated with magical, mysterious figures. The use of the color in Bewitched was no accident. It subtly reinforced the theme of witchcraft while giving the show a cohesive visual identity. Fact 6. When Dick York left the role of Darrin Stevens, the show made the bold decision to recast the character without any in-universe explanation. Enter Dick Sargent, whose portrayal of Darrin was markedly different from York's. Instead of weaving a magical plot to explain Darrin's transformation, something the show could easily have done, the producers chose to move forward without addressing the change. They hoped that the audience would simply accept the new actor and continue to enjoy the show as before. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out. Fans were attached to York's performance, and while Sargent eventually grew into the role, the sudden change caused some disruption. Ratings dipped after the casting change, and the new dynamic between Samantha and Darrin lacked the same spark. Despite this, the show continued for 3 more seasons, with Sargent settling into the role. Fact 7. Aunt Clara, played by Marion Lorne, was one of the most endearing characters on Bewitched. Her endearing clumsiness, coupled with her tendency to botch spells, made her a fan favorite. Aunt Clara's eccentricity extended beyond her magical mishaps, with her quirky habit of collecting doorknobs becoming a memorable trait. This wasn't just a character quirk. Lorne herself had a real-life passion for collecting antique doorknobs. She brought her personal collection to the set and used them as props for her character. Aunt Clara's whimsical nature, combined with Lorne's genuine affection for her unusual hobby, made the character feel real and grounded in a way that endeared her to the audience. Fans couldn't help but root for Aunt Clara, whose good intentions often led to comic chaos. Fact 8. One of the most memorable elements of Bewitched was Elizabeth Montgomery's dual role as both Samantha Stevens and her mischievous cousin, Serena. Although portrayed by the same actress, Serena was credited with a pseudonym, Pandora Spox, a playful reference to Pandora's box. Montgomery's portrayal of the wilder, more carefree Serena was so convincing that many viewers thought she was a separate actress. The character became so popular that the studio was inundated with fan mail addressed to Pandora Spock. This amusing bit of trivia highlights Montgomery's versatility as an actress and how effectively she brought two different characters to life on screen. The contrast between Samantha's poised, responsible demeanor and Serena's rebellious, carefree attitude added another layer of fun to the series. Fact 9. Before Maureen McCormick became famous as Marcia Brady, she made 2 appearances in Bewitched in different roles. In one episode, McCormick portrayed a future version of Samantha and Darrin's child in a fantasy sequence. In another, she appeared as a child version of Endora, enchanted by a magical spell to look young. Although McCormick's roles were small, her performances were memorable and gave fans a glimpse of the actress before she became part of the Brady Bunch. These guest appearances were a fun Easter egg for fans of both shows, demonstrating the interconnectedness of the 1960s television world. Fact 10. While fans can't visit 1164 Morning Glory Circle in real life, the house used in Bewitched still stands on the Warner Brothers Ranch property. The iconic suburban home where so many magical moments took place remains intact, although it's not open to the public for tours. Its exterior still serves as a nostalgic reminder of the show, preserving a piece of television history. The house has also been used for other productions over the years, adding to its place in Hollywood lore. Fact 11. During the first series of Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery was pregnant, a fact the producers cleverly concealed from viewers. Loose clothing and careful camera angles kept her growing belly out of sight. The timing of Montgomery's pregnancy even led to the birth of Tabitha, the Stevens' magical daughter, which became a storyline in later seasons. This seamless blend of real life and fiction added to the show's charm. Fact 12. On screen, Endora and Darrin were constantly at odds, with Endora's disdain for her mortal son-in-law being one of the show's main sources of conflict. Behind the scenes, however, Agnes Moorehead, Endora, and Dick York shared a deep friendship. Moorehead was reportedly heartbroken when York had to leave the show, reflecting the warmth and camaraderie that existed off-screen despite the fictional rivalry their characters shared. Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed learning these fun facts about Bewitched, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more classic TV content. Let us know in the comments what your favorite Bewitched episode is, or if there's another show you'd like us to dive into. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our latest videos. Until next time, stay bewitched